Siam Park, located on the island of Tenerife in the Atlantic Ocean, is the largest water park in Europe with a surface area of 46 acres.
Siam Park is the best water park in the world for 8 years consecutive.
To me, it's a work of art, unique the world over. It's a very special park that has what it takes to amaze. We have facilities you won't see elsewhere.
The construction of this extraordinary place required 6 years' work and close collaboration between the park's director and the company which made this dream possible by designing, manufacturing, and testing more than 15 thrill rides.
The secret of a great water ride is, number one, is to exceed expectations.
The design of these water attractions took into account the island's mountainous relief, favoring the existing slopes and natural gravity to guarantee thrills and adrenaline.
We don't believe that a water park is to see the slides. The sensation is the importance, the emotion is the importance.
This water park with the Thai-inspired theme holds several world records.
The biggest dragon in the world is a sculpture. I have the biggest artificial wave in the world. I can do 4 meters artificial wave. We have the highest difference in a lazy river with 8 meters. And we are the biggest representation of Thai architecture outside of Thailand nowadays with 63 Thai buildings.
To bring the water to the park, high-tech machinery was required to pump this essential element from 300 feet underground.
We have about 21,000 cubic meters of water in the park.
These millions of gallons of water undergo extensive filtration and desalinization to produce a soft water that is more pleasant for visitors.
The most important element in a water park is the quality of the water. It must be treated so that the visitors can enjoy themselves with confidence.
The water used will be refiltered every day to cleanse it of impurities, and it will then be recycled and reused in the park.
We have a depuration unit where we recycle our water.
With 1.25 million visitors annually, the park prioritizes visitor safety and environmental protection.
We want to be, and we work to be, the most sustainable park on the world.
But how could such an exotic place emerge from this arid soil? How were these unique attractions dreamed up and made? How could these Thai constructions have been created in an authentic way? And how could they be made to work on a daily basis with 100% renewable energies? Dive into the heart of this XXL leisure construction. Tenerife, the largest island in the Canary Archipelago, is also the highest, with peaks reaching 12,000 feet in altitude. Located off the coast of Africa, 619 miles from the coast of Morocco, it welcomes close to 6 million visitors per year. Predictably, the economy of this Spanish island is geared towards tourism. But in recent years, particularly since another airport opened in the southern part of the island, the tourist sector is seeing a change in the reason visitors are coming.
The tourists, they changed, which was their demand from the north of Tenerife to the south of Tenerife.
Christoph Kiesling, the director of Siam Park, moved to Tenerife after running an airline that served the Canary Islands. He has worked for years in his father's group, active in tourism, and therefore knows the market well.
At the beginning, they all came for health reasons. Back in the 19th century, they came to Tenerife in wintertime for the good climate and the good air and so on. And in the 21st century, the people then came for sun and beach. So the demand and the profile of client changed. And in the south, we had more than 150,000 hotel beds. And all the hotel companies, they said, we want a park in the south.
A call for proposals was launched by the local authorities, and the Kiesling family won it, as it held an advantage. It had already launched a zoological park in 1972 in the north of the island, the Europa Park, a paradise for parrots. So it knew the region and its tourists well. However, some in-depth research was required into the world of water parks. So Christoph Kiesling's first move in 2002 was to attend the IAAPA, the famous amusement park expo in Orlando, Florida.
I asked all the providers what are the best parks they know. So my father, which is the president of the company, gave me the great opportunity to travel to the best water parks in the world. In total, it was 75 water parks I visited before I start designing this one.
The result of their research was a desire to innovate and stand out from other parks, all of which offered the same kind of fairly standardized attractions.
And we said, we're going to tell a story, and we are more inspired by Indiana Jones, who was always lucky because it doesn't matter when he slipped off at the hillside of a mountain and he came down the mountain. He got into crystal clear water and a nice atmosphere. Everything was perfect. So we thought, why don't we try to make that with our slides? Give the people the sensation that they walk up a hill, and then that they have a wonderful path where they can slide down and they get into a wonderful, clear water, tropical or subtropical reception area pool.
Before offering this unique experience to customers, Christoph Kiesling first had to find land that would allow him to realize his dream. The exact spot in which to build the park was left to their discretion. The only condition was that it should be located in the southern part of Tenerife. And it was in Playas de las Americas, a southwestern resort much visited by tourists, that they found this vast desert space.
If you look up there in the mountain, you can see behind the line of Siam Park, the earth is dry. It's a desert. Here was nothing. It was sand and a little plant called tabaiba, which can live without water and without earth. We did big earth movements because this here was like a canyon. So we had to raise the floor from the canyon so that we put different platforms in. So below us, there might be up to 25 meters of refill. So it was a big work of taking away on one side and putting into the other side.
Initially, the work consisted in preparing and transforming the terrain to give this environment a look of untamed nature.
We defined areas which should stay green forever, like the ring around. So we had to make the surrounding of the park should be green, and that's why we started there with the plantation. We brought it with the trucks down from the north to the south, and then we installed a big deposit of water so we could irrigate. And then we had the opportunity to buy a big number of plants for a very good price. And then we looked for workers, not gardeners, workers with big hands and with power. And we wanted to plant this like a jungle.
At the same time as preparing the land, Christoph Kiesling had to find a company capable of crystallizing his vision of the park, with thrill rides at its heart. Following his visit to the Orlando Expo, he had contacted several manufacturers, including the Canadian company ProSlide, very interested in this ambitious group's project.
They had every intention, you could tell right away, that they wanted to build a world's best water park. So I remember within a day or two, I made plans to fly to Tenerife from Canada, and it was the most important meetings I could ever have in the history of ProSlide.
Rick Hunter is the managing director of ProSlide, which he founded in 1996. This former professional skier, lover of downhills and thrills, had a very specific idea on how to design theme parks. He would now have to convince Christoph Kiesling.
He wanted to see what my vision would be for the site. So in fact, it was an empty site, but it was beautiful because it had all of this beautiful terrain. So Christoph and I took, I would say, a number of hours, and we went from one end of the site to the other.
We take in consideration, which is the topographic structure of the land. And then we look for what slide is possible to come into that piece of land.
I saw where the rides could go.
So Rick and me, we were up here on the mountain, and we took stones, and we said, there we can do this, and there we will do this, and there comes this.
So we walked around and pointed out very, very quickly, we had a topo map that had all the grades, as well as now we're walking it.
The two men quickly discovered a common energy and the same philosophy about the conception of the ideal park. It shouldn't reveal anything of the structure and integrate as well as possible into the environment, in particular by utilizing neutral colors close to nature's palette.
He was very definitive on wanting colors. He didn't want reds and he didn't want this bright stuff. He wanted things that matched the environment.
We don't believe that a water park is to see the slides. The sensation is the importance, the emotion is the importance. So why should we show infrastructure? Every slide is tailor-made to the ground. Even to excavate a little bit the mountain and put the fiberglass inside the land so that the vegetation is overgrowing and you are with your shoulders on the surface of the floor.
Other companies had shown interest in the park, but were offering more traditional, colorful installations with visible structures. A long way from Kiesling's vision. So they decided to move forward with the market leader ProSlide. But the desire to innovate would require the Canadian company to go further than it ever had in the way it designed attractions.
Before we did Siam Park, usually the slides, they had an in-run, the attraction, and an outrun. And then I talked to Rick and I said, I would like to extend the in-run to make it like a story. And then we did a drawing. And then we had to look that we have sufficient green area in between the slides so that they are not overlapping and you can't see one from the other slide. And then we established the first positions and then we went into the engineering.
This stage of developing an overall plan of the park took many months. They needed to ensure they had the right mix of attractions, that they were sufficiently strong and complementary, and that they were all placed in the best possible location.
The master plan had multiple revisions of every type of water ride to make sure that we were doing the best rides and the most cost-effective rides also, so that they would be as close to grade as possible.
When we started building the park, we didn't have the final master plan finished. So it was more like an organic growth.
Though the plan wasn't completely finished, ProSlide would begin producing elements of slides in Canada that would be sent to Tenerife. At the same time, the structures that would support them were built.
We can literally do what we call drilled piers, which are cement. So, you know, sometimes it's a dog bone, which is a cement bar right on the grade, and the slide can drop right down onto the soil. Other places where we go a little bit higher, we've got two vertical piers that are drilled piers like concrete. Also, the pools, pumps, and piping have been pre-engineered and planned, and that can be done while the fiberglass is being built as well.
The engineering for the water comes from ProSlide. They tell us how many cubic meters per minute they need on the injets. That means they design where the water should be introduced into the slides, and they tell us how much water. And we have to do the piping, and we have to prepare the pump room so that we can supply sufficient water.
To operate the attractions and bring down rafts holding several people, water must be sent into the slides at specific spots in precise quantities. Various trades would therefore be active on the site at the same time. A supervisor sent by ProSlide for the assembly of the attractions, a construction company, engineers, and gardeners.
It was quite chaotic, to say it like this. We had up to 300, 350 workers at the same time on the construction site being distributed into the different areas. We had the gardeners working there, we had the trucks with the earth come in, we had the irrigation system, we had to do the deposits. For me, it was my first big construction, so it was a big challenge. And the people which worked with us, for them, it was also a big challenge because we want to do it slightly different than the other people have done the parks before.
A vast project that was followed at the time by Rafael Marquez, Siam Park's technical director, a difficult undertaking because constructions of this type were not common at the time.
Here, everything is unique. And when you make unique things, everything is undefined. The workers weren't used to working that way. It was a first time for everyone.
When you do a water park, you have different aspects. One are the slides, obviously, but they're also the most sensible because the fiberglass with the construction work, the dust, the trucks and all of this. So you have to be very careful that you don't break the slides.
We've got hundreds of meters of slides of different profiles, and depending on which rides we were working, because you would prioritize which rides. You don't do them all at once. You focus on getting one done or an area of multiple slides in one area done. And you literally pick up, and it's a big part of a snake, and you pick it up with various types of, wraps, okay? And you move this, a portion of the slide up into position, and then you attach it.
Once the various elements of an attraction were fixed and joined, and the attraction was completed, Christoph Kiesling could see if what he imagined was close to reality.
My hope was that once the slide is finished, that I can have the first time the experience to see if our illusion feels the same like the product. So always when one slide was finished, I was the first one to go down on all the slides.
But before that, different levels of testing had obviously been carried out upstream, in particular by ProSlide, which knows each of its attractions and has a laboratory for this purpose.
We have an indoor test area near our office.
Jeff Janovich is Vice President of Sales at ProSlide. Present since the creation of the park, he has followed the development of each of its attractions.
We can actually set up full-size sections of attractions and test different vehicles, different weight, weight of riders, different water flows to optimize the performance characteristics of the attraction that will finally get installed.
To guarantee total safety for its customers, Siam Park also called upon an external company, TÜV, a German inspection body that issues safety certification.
The TÜV went to Canada to join the process of the fabrication of the fiberglass slides. And then they took all the blueprints of the engineering back to Germany, and they did a recalculation of all the engineering. They can send a rubber ball down, or they can send the tubes down with sacks, with sand sacks on it. And everything was 100%, so there's no doubt.
But the park wasn't entirely built in fiberglass. Some rides, particularly those in concrete, were developed directly by Siam Park and required several versions and corrections.
So there's one slide which is located in our lazy river. It's the Mai Tai River. In the Mai Tai River, we have a concrete slide coming down, 8 meters of height difference from the upper lazy river to the lower one. And that one we did it out of concrete. So we tried to do what we call a pool-to-pool slide. So we did down chutes, like steps, and then you got into a little pool, and then with the water flow, you should get out of the pool into the next slide. But what happened when we tested it was the water was going on, but the boats, they just stayed inside and circling around. So what we had to do is we had to fill up the pools with concrete and make it a channel. So now we have a channel which goes stepways down. It's a very nice one, but it costs a lot of money, lots of testing, until to the very end to have the right inclination, so it's not too fast, it's not too slow, and the people get easily through.
But other incidents also interrupted work in the final phase and involved having to redo part of what had already been done, which raised tension on the site.
When we finalized the installation and we were with the cleanup, so you use acetone to clean the silicone from the joints. And one of the guys, he had a headlamp because it was a dark slide. and he wanted to change the batteries. And to see how to put the batteries in, he lighted a lighter. And since the whole tube was filled up with acetone, it caught fire. So that part of the park burned down. And we had 4 slides affected by the fire. And ProSlide was so kind to send us all the material again so that we could rebuild the burned slides. That was one of those moments when you think it's crazy.
In the end, the project, which was initially supposed to take 2 years, took much longer than expected.
I was here every day and I walked on the construction site and I said, this looks like it will never be finished. It took us 6 years. 6 years to build Siam Park. Time is always a challenge. Money is a big challenge. So the initial budget was overdriven. That means we went far over the initial budget.
The cost of Siam Park has reached some $62 million by 2008, when the Kieslings decided to open. They chose September 17th, after the high season, because they wanted to test it, to fine-tune the service and train the personnel so everything would be ready when the public were admitted. But the big unknown was whether the market was ready for this kind of concept.
When we announced the opening day, will everybody come? Will we have a traffic jam here in front of our park? Will the highway be blocked? Nothing happened. The highway was empty, the street was empty, our parking had capacity. And the first people came in, and from the 3rd year on, it went better and better.
A success that has continued to grow over the years, as 12 years later, the park has notched up 10 million visitors, attracted by the diversity of these exceptional rides. The Kieslings, it must be said, launched this park at the perfect time, when the sector was experiencing a real revolution. From then on, manufacturers started offering more than simple slides for one person. Thanks to fiberglass, they were able to develop larger structures, which could accommodate rafts for several people. The diversity of rides would appeal to a new audience.
Christoph Kiesling's timing couldn't have been better because we had now built the #1 water ride in the world. This just revolutionized the world with all these major attractions with multi-person.
When you come into the park, you have rides with a lot of adrenaline, like Tower of Power, for example, Singa Kinnery, and then you have another one, more quiet, more relaxed, thinking about families and the people like, I want to be relaxed.
One of the most visible attractions in Siam Park is the Dragon, a water slide that uses 8,000 gallons of water per minute to drive 4-person rafts around at exceptional speed. But in the 2000s, its funnel-shaped format represented a challenge.
The most difficult to build for us was the Dragon, because the Dragon has the funnel is 18 meters diameter. And since our philosophy at Siam Park is we don't show fiberglass, so we had to take an 18-meter funnel being on top of some supports which are also 2 to 3 meters high. So we are about 21 meter height. And then we had to height 21 meter.
To hide this structure from the public eye, a dragon sculpture 85 feet high by 250 feet long was built using a crane. It served as a framework for the animal's leg and back and was then covered. Another spectacular statue, which doesn't hide the park's most impressive adrenaline rush attraction, is the Tower of Power. This 90-foot-long water slide sends those who dare at a speed of 50 miles per hour through an acrylic tube through an aquarium of sharks.
The Tower of Power is the tallest, steepest ride at Siam Park, and it's based on the many speed slides that we've built over the years. So you're going from 0 to full speed in a matter of less than a second, and you're hitting through the compression at the bottom of the ride and then shooting right through the tunnel, through the shark tank. It's an experience unlike any other speed slide because of that combination of high speed and then that transition through the tunnel.
you're dropping. You feel like, oh my God, I'm dropping straight down. You're really at about 62 degrees. It's steep.
These attractions have made the park famous since its launch. But as the market continued to evolve, customers expected newer sensations. Fierce competition came in particular from the United Arab Emirates, which offered real aquatic roller coasters, latest generation water slides using a system of linear induction motors that allow the rafts not only to descend, but also to ascend.
I talked to Rick and I said, why don't we work on an attraction like this? Because our market demands it. And so Rick did a prototype. And this prototype is here at Siam Park, which is Singa.
Well, with Singa was a really revolutionary new ride that we did for Siam Park. Every other attraction we had done for the park previously was a gravity-based ride, and Singa was the first coaster ride where we're actually sending riders uphill.
Singa, let's call it like a water roller coaster.
There's a lot more water required because you're draining water out and you're re-injecting it on the multiple ups and downs of a water coaster. So it has a very extensive pumping system.
Which goes 18 meters per second downhill and 6 meters per second uphill. And nowadays we run our pumps on 50%. That means we could go faster uphill, but then we would get air time. That means the boat at the top would jump off the slide to dive in again.
Singa has flying saucer turns. I mean, you are literally, you come out of a tunnel and you're going into an open area and you actually can see more, and it changes your ride.
The change of direction, the vertical curves, the drops, the speed uphill, and then the final plunge into the pool, it creates a ride that is non-stop action from start to finish.
These exploits are made possible thanks to state-of-the-art technology, different for each attraction. For Siam Park's wave pool, a completely different system had to be developed in order to offer a complete aquatic experience.
If you go to traditional wave pools, you have diamond waves and you have waves which are half a meter, maybe a meter, but it's not like being in the ocean, no? You don't have that like body surfing with the wave, you don't have the sensation to jump through the wave. So we wanted to have big waves. And the best provider for big waves is waves from Murphy's Waves from Scotland.
To build a wave pool, you absolutely must take into account the size of the pool into your calculations. Here, we displace a huge volume of water, 500,000 cubic feet. Compared to the pool's surface area, 500,000 cubic feet is massive. It takes a lot of different technology to make all this work.
So, to produce a wave in the ocean, usually when this is the bottom of the sea, you need a reef so that the currency of the water gets to the reef, and then the wave builds up and it travels over the reefs to collapse behind.
The process for making artificial waves consists in placing large volumes of water in tanks built at height. Hydraulic opening doors, located at the bottom of these receptacles, allow this volume of water to be propelled through a narrow space to the level of the pool floor. The water rises upwards with the pressure and causes a wave.
The system is made up of 10 tanks with 5 pumps over 108 miles. We fill the 10 tanks, and according to the filling level, we create a large wave. Depending on the degree of openness and the direction of the gates, waves can be to the right, to the left, or they make a backwash. Anything is possible.
Once the wave creation mechanism has been perfected, there are various problems to be faced. During the first tests, the wave created overflowed the pool and continued on its way much further than the beach. A new solution had to be found to recover the water and prevent it from bursting out. This system of water collection channels has another advantage. It makes it possible to create a loop and return the water to the tanks. Once it gets to the bottom, water pumps force it upwards to refill the tanks. Advanced technology that requires a significant infrastructure in terms of space and cost, but which enables them to offer a multiple experience.
Here, the artificial waves attract all kinds of visitors, from longtime customers who come every day to play in the water, to water sports professionals. We could hold a world championship here.
They just had to define an ideal wave height that would be an exploit for the park, yet still remain accessible to as many people as possible.
We created the ideal wave for surfers to train on. A 10-foot wave already requires a professional level. Very few people manage to surf on waves higher than that. For surfing, a 7 or 10-foot wave is the perfect height. Many higher, and we'd be targeting top-level sports people.
This height allows professional surfers to train in good conditions in fresh water and without the risks of the ocean, even at night. The wave pool is reserved for them in the evening, when the park is closed. But so that the little ones can enjoy it too, a similar attraction was built in 2020, Cocoa Beach.
Very similar, small, with a small wave for the family, for the kids, with the sun area, with the sunbed.
The technique in use on this 80,000 square foot attraction is nevertheless different, as the smaller wave height requires another process.
The system is totally different at Cocoa Beach. It's a pneumatic system that enables us to push the water. It wouldn't be powerful enough for a large pool. The pneumatic system creates thrust or an inflation that causes the water to move. But it's not powerful enough to create waves of 7 feet or above.
Water is an essential element in a water park. It is actually the driving force behind the various attractions, and therefore requires strict surveillance, in particular to guarantee a continuous experience.
Control of the water levels is crucial, especially in the pools at the end of attractions. If we don't check, there's a risk of accident. We carry out several checks, ensuring that the water level is ideal and guaranteeing a comfortable arrival without turbulence.
The park contains 4.6 million gallons of water, enough to fill 8 Olympic pools. Given the cost of acquiring this astronomical quantity, the park has developed a tailor-made solution to be able to use seawater and treat it at a lower cost.
Before Siam Park was created, it looked like a desert. It was a desert. So to get water in a desert area is quite costly. So we applied for the license to do a desalination unit. So to get the water to Siam Park, we had to make a drill hole within the first 100 meters from the coastline, because in Spain it's not allowed to have a drill hole further away than 100 meters from the coast. So we did a 90-meter drill hole. Then we have a submergible pump in that hole. We take out fresh seawater and we bring it up to the surface. And on the surface, then we have a pipe which comes from the drill hole to Siam Park, and it's under earth.
This salt water will undergo treatment to make it freshwater, more pleasant for visitors.
Before bringing the water into the desalination plant, we decant it into a basin and filter it. Then, when the water has been treated in the desalination plant, it is sent to the drinking water tanks. The most important element in a water park is the quality of the water. For the visitors to enjoy themselves with confidence, it must be drinking water and conform to safety rules.
We have about 21,000 cubic meters of water in the park. That's 21 million liters of water which we have in the park. All the water comes from our desalination unit.
This desalinization treatment will separate the water in two. 2/3 of this mixture of water and salt called brine ends up in a discharge well, then is discharged into the sea. Only 1/3, namely the filtered water, can be kept in a collection well.
The water is stored in a large drinking water tank that supplies the whole park. Then, each pool has its own filtering system to which we can add treatments. Our main disinfectant is the most effective that exists, chlorine dioxide. We also add hypochlorite and acids to regulate the pH.
This water must be reprocessed daily to be cleansed of all the impurities. Due to its presence in the open air and its daily use by thousands of people, it contains sand and other organic particles and bacteria.
The water from each basin passes through the filters for 30 to 90 minutes per day. That means all the park's water can be cleaned, processed, and reused in a closed circuit. In each circuit, we apply the same dose of disinfectant treatment. We also take advantage of this to regulate the water's temperature. It's an all-in-one system.
Once this water has been used in the rides, it is recycled and used to irrigate the park. So more or less 2 to 5% of the water is thus renewed each day, the equivalent of 3,000 baths.
We have a depuration unit where we recycle our water, then we bring it up to our deposit for the irrigation of the plants. And the deposit is on top of the mountain. Also our drinking deposit, all our deposits are on top. So we use gravity for our water, for the irrigation of the plants, and we use gravity to serve water to the whole park.
The park aims to be self-sufficient and to have the least possible negative impact on the environment. For this, water recycling is not the only lever on which it acts. In his desire to favor sustainable energies, Christoph Kiesling had a solar power plant built 25 miles from the park.
Our energy comes from renewable energy. 100% of our energy is green energy. We have a solar field which has 4.75 megawatt of electricity, and we have an eological, a windmill which has 4 megawatt as well.
Siam Park also has a natural gas reserve for heating the water.
And then we have a gas heating system where we use propane air, and that represents a 72% on reduction on CO2 emission. That means the way how we heat our water is the most sustainable way and the cheapest as well. So our activity can't be a pain for society, for environment, or for the planet. And that's why we want to be, and we work to be, the most sustainable park on the world.
18 water attractions on 46 acres, the largest outdoor water park in Europe. But providing sensational attractions was not enough. The Kieslings wanted visitors to feel a real disconnect when they arrive in the park. So they decided to give it a theme, Thailand, given the experience they had acquired in Thai construction at Europa Park. So the name of the park is also directly linked to this theme, as Siam was the former name of Thailand.
The people, when they come to the park, they should change their chip. They are not in their tourist destination anymore. They have an experience. So this door is like a magical door to something different.
All the wooden houses that you see, they built by a Thailand carpenter. They came from Thailand to build the house that you see right now.
We brought 11 carpenters from Thailand because I don't want Spanish carpenters to interpret how to build a Thai house. That wouldn't work. So we contracted these people to help us to design traditional and original Thai architecture, but for the usage of a water park.
Tons of wood were sourced from that region of Asia to create the most faithful reproductions possible and to guarantee the authenticity of the buildings.
I believe just on wood we had about 11 or 12 containers.
The difference between us and the rest is the details, you know? You don't have to think about the biggest thing. You have to think about the details.
So our lockers, the locker buildings, you have one down there. They come from a Thai traditional kitchen. The building is ventilated by nature, but it's protected from insects and so on. We don't have insects here, but we need the ventilation in a locker room because the people, they get in with wet clothes, bathing suits, and so on.
5,000 visitors per day on average, with 90% of the tourists coming from Europe and other continents. To offer them a quality experience and guarantee their safety, a team ensures daily maintenance and safety in every corner of the park. The number of people employed varies greatly depending on the period, from 200 to 500 in high season.
The park is open 365 days a year, day and night. This requires constant upkeep. We have a team of plumbers, electricians, and mechanics who ensure ride maintenance around the clock.
One of the most important challenges at Siam Park is the maintenance of the rides, which can accommodate several hundred visitors per hour.
We have a team of 5 people to maintain our slides, and that starts when the park closed down. So we go in and we give them a fresh water wash. Then we check on all the slides while we wash them, if they are 100% as they should be.
Well, maintenance with fiberglass, it's a very durable product. But at the end of the day, like anything else, you know, a car or any other product, it requires maintenance. And with fiberglass, there's not a lot of moving parts for the slide sections themselves. It's primarily, you know, a cleaning and generally waxing the fiberglass to allow it to maintain its UV-resistant characteristics.
So it's like if you have skis, you also put wax under your skis, so you have a longer usage of your skis and a better performance of the slide. So the protection film is a wax on top of the slides, and each couple of years we give them a more intense polishing, and sometimes we have to paint them.
Ensuring that these rides are in good repair also helps to avoid incidents. But to guarantee maximum safety, a large part of the personnel is on duty daily within these attractions to supervise the visitors and be able to intervene in the event of a problem.
Accident can happen. Toi, toi, toi. Not here. We have a lifeguard school, so we educate people to be lifeguards. And we take which are the best lifeguards for our park, and like this we guarantee which is safety for our people.
A team of lifeguards trained regularly to maintain the reputation of Siam Park, where 10 million visits have so far occurred without accident. Siam Park is a concept that continues to grow every year, regularly integrating the latest market innovations. New roller coasters could soon arrive on the island of Tenerife, straight out of the imagination of its founder.
We have already designed a couple of rides. So for the kids area where we have Coco Beach, so I want to create which is a little water park for kids there. So we have more slides to go into Coco Beach area. And then we have the dueling Singa, since Singa was so successful. 2 slides parallel, so the people, they can go down and they can see each one. It's like a real race. So it's going to be lots of different sensations.
Ambition, vision, boldness, and creativity. A philosophy that boosts the number of visitors each year and cements Siam Park in its #1 spot as the best water park in Europe.
I believe when you have passion and when you're dedicated to do something and excellency, when you try to do the best, so you do it out of a motivation. You're not forced to do the best, you know? You want to do the best. You try to do the best. And then you start doing it. And when the clients come in and they smile at you and they say, thank you, we enjoyed this. So then you get these goosebumps, then you feel fulfilled.
Since its birth in 1975, Europa Park has continued to grow, rather like its inspiration, Europe. Today, the German park covers 100 hectares and boasts 15 European-themed areas, including Italy, France, Switzerland, Spain, and Greece. A vacation atmosphere that attracts more than 5 million visitors annually.
We are, I think, number 2 after Disneyland Paris in number of visits. And we are the 20 biggest parks worldwide if you look also to year-round parks. If you look only to seasonal parks, we are number 1 in all over the world.
Behind its success, the diversity and quantity of attractions, 100 in all. Among them, fjord rafting, as well as roller coasters that are super complex to maintain. Like the wooden Wodan and its 2 million nails, but also the Silver Star, all in steel, with its breathtaking 67-meter drop.
Silver Star has a very heavy trains, 16 metric tons. Silver Star has a track length of 1,680 meters. It's one of the highest roller coasters in Europe.
The other main attraction is Blue Fire, a challenge for the builder who had to find a way to design a series of dizziness-inducing elements like this 32-meter looping, the highest in Europe on a launched roller coaster.
Blue Fire was the first at Europa Park with inversions. So we worked very hard to make a nice layout, to have all the technical issues solved.
The Blue Fire is an LSM launch coaster with a great catapult start in the beginning, gives you in 2.5 seconds the speed to 100 kilometers per hour.
Europa Park is also the largest hotel complex in Germany. 6 hotels, including one right opposite the new aquatic space, Rulantica. Here there's a Nordic theme, with 30 toboggans spread over 32,000 square meters, the equivalent of 5 soccer pitches.
Most of the technology we try to keep in the basement. It's a very big area. You can drive a truck into that.
In the race for thrills, the park also wants to be a forerunner with this world premiere that optimizes the roller coasters that may be losing attendance because they're slower and older.
Coastiality is the first technology combining a traditional roller coaster with a virtual headset, and you feel in another world.
And behind all this is a family, the Macs. 8 generations of entrepreneurs. The last in line is determined to further expand the Europa Park empire.
It never stops, so if you know the Mac family, there's always invention and that we are always moving forward.
Welcome to Europa Park, the biggest seasonal theme park in the world. Located in southern Germany, several kilometers from the border with France, it covers the equivalent of 140 soccer fields and has welcomed 120 million visitors since it opened. A national record and a source of pride for the man who created it, Roland Mack. Now 73 years old, he still has the soul of a child when he walks among its attractions.
I live here, I enjoy my life here, and I enjoy working here. And since 50 years, I was always going very happy to the office and to the park because it's the best profession you can find in the world.
For Roland Mack and his father, Franz, the business began in the 1970s. Together, they had the idea of creating a place for recreation. It would be 1/7 of its current size, 15 hectares with a few rides in Rust. The start of an incredible expansion for the small village, too.
So the decision to do something close, far away from a big city in the countryside, that was a big decision really to be made. And everybody thought it's going to be a failure. It's going to collapse after the first 2-3 years because there are not enough people around us. So this was a hard time to convince the banks, to convince the partners, and to convince ourselves that's the right decision to do.
With success comes recognition. Today, Roland and his father Franz have streets in Rust named after them and a park that can't be ignored. In high season, it employs more than 8,000 staff, and that's without counting the others, entrepreneurs and workers who ensure the running of the site. At Europa Park, there's always construction underway. Take a look at Rulantica, the latest major project erected in 2019. A water park shaped like a shell, with a hall 20 meters high, 30 slides, and the largest wave pool in Germany, its size estimated at 2 handball courts. Leisure on a gigantic scale. With Rulantica's bottom line at 150 million euros, this is the largest investment ever made by the Mack family.
We were in discussion to build an outdoor water park in the beginning because it's much cheaper to build. It's less budget you need because if you cover everything, you have to do a finalized decision about size because you can't add like you can add in an open park or in an open water park. So that was a hard decision, but we finally came to the conclusion that with the hotels, with the site that Europa Park has to be closed in some month of the year, we should have something for the resort, for the hotels, which can be open all year round. So we decided to build it indoor.
A decision that is far from being set in stone, as since opening, slides have been added outside, making this summer area the largest outdoor water playground in Germany. There are more than 100 water rides, a 500 square meter pool, and a huge tipping bucket. But why did Europa Park get into water attractions? Why offer something other than roller coasters? The answer comes from Roland's youngest son, who has always been passionate about the world of leisure.
My name is Thomas Mack. I'm the 8th generation of the family Mack, and I was born in 1981, so 6 years after the opening of Europa Park. So already 10 years ago we decided, or we asked our guests what you want as the next park, and they always said we want a water park, and so we, already 15 years ago, we decided to build a water park.
Ambition then, to offer the public an adventure that is different from other water parks. No tropical atmosphere, no palm trees, but mermaids and trolls. Rulantica is inspired by Nordic mythology, a different narrative universe from the 6 Europa Park hotels, all of which are also themed.
So Rulantica was also built to bring, of course, more people to the region, but also to make them stay longer. So at the Europa Park, we had like a 1.4 average stay, which is very low. And now we want that the people are staying longer for 2, 3, or 4 nights. And before they only stayed for 1 night, maybe.
Rulantica took 2 years and a lot of resources to build. 130 companies and 1,000 staff are involved, as well as 11 on-site cranes. We got a chance to go behind the scenes of this extraordinary construction with the man who dreamed of this long ago.
I liked my job because I was helping to make Rulantica came true. I started in 1996 with the early research for it. Then I did all the planning process, the research in different countries of the world. For 2 years, I was traveling all over the world to test and find out what is good and not so good. And after that, I did the permit process, public hearings.
The next phase would require gargantuan infrastructure preparation. Some 80,000 cubic meters of earth required excavating. Then 40,000 cubic meters of gravel would be laid, along with 1,800 meters of sewers and 3 kilometers of pipelines, as well as a gas pipeline nearly 2 kilometers long. Figures that are explained by the size of the site, as big as 63 soccer fields.
I would say the footprint of the building is more than 30,000 square meters. The footprint of the whole area is 430,000 square meters. Within that area, we have some backstage area for Energy Central, but most of the technology we try to keep in the basement. So under Rulantica, there are huge technical rooms. Even under Svalgorok, the outdoor play area, which doesn't look that big, has a huge cellar with all the pumps and filters. So it's a very big area. You can drive a truck into that.
Rulantica operates thanks to this underground world, unknown to the general public, accessible only to qualified personnel. The technical team comprises 20 experts who ensure the maintenance of the entire site. And the site is fortunate in that it enjoys easy access to an underground water reservoir from the Rhine Valley, an almost inexhaustible volume of 45 billion cubic meters, the equivalent of Lake Constance. But how to treat this water?
We use chlorine gas to disinfect. It's all controlled. There are chemical controllers, and in our technical room and in our lifeguarding central, we have all the displays, and as long as everything is okay, all green light. If there's a little mistake or a little parameter off the corridor we defined, it immediately goes red and we can go with it. But it's not like a fast-moving thing. You have to be very careful in treating the water. It's not like this. It's more like a big boat which needs a lot of time to turn.
This technology allows visitors to enjoy quality warm water in an environment that is also pleasant. For this, the water is maintained at a temperature of at least 30 degrees, and the ambient temperature is always 1 degree above that of the water to avoid condensation and window fogging. Rulantica is 4,000 cubic meters of moving bathing water, 29 ventilation systems, and super eco-heating. The energy and heat are produced by 2 huge turbines that are connected to the hotel right opposite of the water park, the Kronasar.
In summertime, when we do not need that much warm energy, we have an absorption system which produces cold climate out of the warm energy, and we can use it to AC the hotel. We have cool rooms using the warm energy from our generators.
The Kronasar is the 6th Europa Park hotel, a 4-star hotel which benefits from the water park clientele, a park with a building of equally impressive dimensions. Ceiling height, 25 meters. The roof is made of glued laminated wood, glulam. And in order to assemble the strips of half-timbered coffers, everything was made on site, on the grounds.
It was pretty amazing to see all the construction coming together. For example, the huge supports of the roof, they are more than 100 meters long and more than 100 tons heavy. So it was a real big thing to get them into the building. And we pre-installed, for example, the ventilation into the beams. So this was a very smart way of constructing. And we have more than 100 pumps in the cellar which are guaranteeing the water flow. We were building several very new attractions which are not known to Europe right now, bringing big slides from Canada.
The arrival of the slides was also an important moment. There were around 100 containers on the construction site.
It was almost like Christmas. Every container, you opened it and then all these presents, and we have a big construction yard where all the parts came together and our installers put them together. They were pre-installed and then lifted to their position. In some areas you couldn't close the roof, so you had to wait until the slides are in and then you could close the roof. So the construction work was a lot of coordination.
As a result, Rulantica was voted Best Water Park in Europe in 2020 by the British industry magazine Park World. But what does it feel like to be inside a slide like the Winterrit? How does it work?
The inventor of that slide, he was an Olympic ski racer from Canada, and he said, when I talked with him, how do you create such a slide? He said, yeah, from skiing I know which is the good swing and how to do it, and so he designed it like that, and it is the form of a slide, and then to have a safe sliding effect, you need a certain level and amount of water, which is automatically controlled, and then you have a perfect slide path.
Today, only 1/3 of the surface of the water park is being used. But the first building built will be a springboard for more innovation every year. A concept similar to that of Europa Park. A park which, as its name suggests, is dedicated to Europe. And every year it unveils a new attraction in one of its 15 European-themed areas. Districts created to give visitors the notion of travel.
When you think back that in the 70s, Europe was still not together like it is today, I think it was quite visionary of my father and my grandfather to call this place Europa Park.
The first themed area was Italian, and we had to wait 7 years for its debut in 1982.
No, we haven't had the money to build the Italian village and the theme park because it's the most expensive way to create a park with theming. Just to have nature and rides, that's much less expensive. So we had to save money first, try to gain some money, to put some money on the side to develop this idea, which was always in us, but we couldn't afford it in the very beginning.
Italy was such a huge success, so we just decided to continue with the European theme. And so Europa Park is not only about attractions.
And yet there are 100 of them, including several that are particularly impressive. This is Wodan, created in 2012 and famous for its sharp turns. Height 40 meters, speed 100 kilometers per hour, which makes it the second highest and second fastest roller coaster in Europe. Wodan is also a marvel of construction. It took 26 people 9 months to perfect it, with all components made on site. Some Wodan figures, around 1,000 cubic meters of wood utilized. Add to that 21,000 cubic meters of beams, 2 million nails, and 100,000 screws, all of which makes the job of this safety engineer more complex.
I like this place a lot because it's a lot of different work. It's not every day the same. You have very special fields. It's almost like a small city.
Inside, where everything runs like clockwork, the teams must adapt to each attraction and deal with all the different materials. It could be steel or wood, very sensitive to water.
Our wooden roller coaster is a little bit more tricky because it's a lot more work, because you have more maintenance on the track itself. The wooden structure has to be checked daily. So we have a team that walks through the whole track every morning and checks all the bolts, because there are a lot more bolts than on steel roller coaster, because there is no welding. And also the wood that is outside, the weather condition, there's a wear on the wood. And so sometimes we need to change a few parts.
Although wood requires more checks, it's still very popular. Its look reminds visitors of the attractions of yesteryear and hints at the risk of collapse when in fact everything is under control. A psychological chill, nothing like the one felt on Silver Star, a steel monster some 73 meters tall, which also gives white knuckles to the team in charge of its maintenance.
It's a very high attraction, so the maintenance is a little bit more effort. We have to get a very high lift, and we check this structure every half year for 100% and every day for a part of the track.
All this work has enabled us to enjoy this circuit for 20 years. A circuit that was the highest in Europe up until 2012, when it was dethroned by the Shambhala hyper roller coaster in Spain, 16 feet higher. Silver Star is 1,620 meters long and has a throughput of 1,750 passengers per hour. But how does this ride work?
The Silver Star is, I would say, a classic roller coaster type. So we have a lift hill with a chain hill, and there's a part underneath the train that locks into the chain. The motor, the engines on this attraction is only to get the train up the hill, and once you're on top of the hill, it only rolls. There's only gravity in the work. The hill is around 73 meters high, and then there's a very steep first drop. It's 68.5 degrees angle, where you come into the first valley, which is very forceful. It's a left turn, and we'll have special moments during this track is the airtime. It's the feeling when you feel your stomach wants to go up, but your body is going down because the track is already bending down. And that's why it's, I guess, a fan favorite, because that's the sensation that everyone really thinks of when they think of a roller coaster.
With a speed of 127 kilometers per hour, braking requires the implementation of several elements. Halfway through, the train decelerates to 36 kilometers an hour at 33 meters above the ground. Then it dives again, triggering powerful airtime before moving on to a 270-degree spiral.
So the final brake, you have a lot of speed normally when you come into the final brake. So we need to make sure your brake is comfortable and it doesn't hurt the people. There's a code for that in Europe, which defines the amount of G-force you can put on the body when you decelerate. And to make this much more comfortable and also maintenance-free, basically, wear-free, we use magnets. The magnets are a very, very good system because a magnet cannot fail. It works in the rain, it works in the heat. It works without energy. You don't need a spring, you don't need pressure air. So there's a material like copper, for example. If you place this in a movement in a magnetic field, there's a force that always pushes against the movement. So it breaks down the train's speed, and it's also proportional. So if the train is very fast, the force is very strong, and once the train gets slower, the force also gets less.
Silver Star and Wodan were not built by the company of the family which manages the park. It's an important detail because here, 90% of the attractions come from Mack Rides, a roller coaster builder located 40 kilometers from Europa Park. In Waldkirch, in the Black Forest, a stimulating environment for Roland, who lived there in his early childhood.
In front of my sleeping room, the Mack company set up all the rides. So I was a test pilot when I was a young boy. I was very close to the industry.
This industry benefits from very old family engineering tradition. Mack Rides has been in the Mack family since 1780. The founder, Paul, made wagons and pipes. A century later, the company began to manufacture rides and attractions. But it was with Heinrich Mack that the first roller coaster was created in 1921. The beginning of a new era was confirmed by the sixth generation. France would give Mack Rides an international dimension.
My father was he was a leading head of the company. He was an entrepreneur. He was an inventor. He was a hardworking man. He had a lot of things which you should adjust. You better adjust than not and being against, because a lot of things he did was running into the success.
Today, 250 people work for Mack Rides. And for the director since 2005, it's a constant challenge.
I love this industry. It's always fun. And one of my jobs is, of course, opening rides. So, you know, we sell our rides all over the world.
95% of products are exported. Among them, 155 roller coasters. There's a strategic explanation for this.
It's very difficult for us to sell rides in Germany because all the other parks say, oh, no, 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 we don't want to make the Mack family bigger, that they can expand the park, yeah? So because they have the most visitors in Germany is in Europa Park.
And the park exists today for the simple reason that Franz and his son Roland wanted a worthy showcase to display the attractions produced at Mack Rides.
It was a very good decision in the 70s to do so because we have a showcase with Europa Park. We can try new rides, prototype. It's much more convincing if you can try it, if you can talk to people. How did you like it?
And this is what we do still today, that we bring our clients and can show our rides at Europa Park.
The key asset for Mack Rides would be Blue Fire, launched in 2009, its first mega coaster. Before then, the company was not capable of building one. The market wanted speed and height, but Mack Rides was experiencing a slack period, which prevented it from building Silver Star, for example.
And when I ask people which ride you love most at Europa Park, and if they say Silver Star, I'm not happy. I prefer Blue Fire. No, because Silver Star was built in 2000. And at that time, Mack Rides was not really able to build huge rides like this one. So we had the round rides, so small ones, and we had water rides, but we had no real coaster.
Blue Fire, from afar or up close, is a launched roller coaster that makes you dizzy, even behind the scenes. And for good reason. It required many discussions before its construction, which was completed in the record time of 4 months.
The family Mack was thinking we need another big coaster at the park, yeah? And Roland Mack said, oh, from whom we should buy that? And we said, yeah, from Mack Rides, yeah, please take it from Mack Rides. And he said, oh, I'm not sure if you really can do that. And so we worked very hard to make a nice layout, to have all the technical issues solved, and presented it to him. This was the biggest risk he ever did in his life, because he said if it wouldn't work, he cannot go to court with his own company, yeah, because both belonged to him. But it worked very well, and this is for me one of the most important milestones for Mack Rides, because afterwards we sold a coaster like. Also, in the meantime, we have built more than 25 coasters, big ones.
Blue Fire is a 1,056-meter-long ride whose construction was made possible thanks to the production method starting base. Here, there's no need to assemble the rides beforehand on the supplier's site. They are manufactured with computer assistance as parts. This system allows the whole thing to be assembled on the final site, delivering unprecedented quality in the curvature of the rails, ideal for guaranteeing passenger comfort. Blue Fire attracts 1,720 visitors per hour. Ride duration, 2 minutes 30 seconds. An intense moment, considering the different elements of this circuit, which is a first for the park.
When we decided to build the Blue Fire, we had no inversions, no coaster with inversions. Because also Franz Mack, who was still alive at that time, the father of Roland and Jürgen Mack, he said, I don't want inversions, because inversions are nothing for the family. So it was difficult to convince him, but we thought that inversions are very important.
And not one, not two, but 4 inversions can be found on this ride. It's a course that this Mack Rides engineer knows by heart. Roller coasters hold no secrets for him.
It's a really fun part to design it because you need to be creative, but it's a really fun part to be on the coaster, and yes, at the end it's more fun to be on the coaster than designing it. The Blue Fire, you start, of course, like every coaster, you start in the station, then you come to a stop. By a magnetic field, you're getting pushed to a speed of 100 kilometers per hour, and the acceleration is in approximately 2.5 seconds. And after these 80 meters of accelerations, you are reaching the first high point, which is approximately 40 meters high, and we call that as a horseshoe, where you have a 90-degree banking, so you're tilted to the outside, and you're quite slow in that area, so that you really also get a sensation of the height. And then after the tunnel, we go through the looping, which is 32 meters high, and which is one of the highest in Europe. Then after the looping, you have a very quick turn, which is called a dive element, where the vehicle is also turned to the side.
All these elements can give you the feeling of taking off from your seat. And the speed is such that falling from the train is a real fear.
Due to the design of the roller coaster bogies, so the wheel part, it is impossible that the roller coaster vehicle can fall off the track, because we have a running wheel, a side wheel, and an upstop wheel, so it is more or less clamped around the track tube, and therefore it's, as said, it's impossible that the roller coaster can fly away.
But what are the mechanical principles at work behind Blue Fire? How does the acceleration and, above all, the braking work?
The roller coaster sensation, that is not really coming from the speed, so this is always coming from the acceleration. So even with less speed, you can still create nice feelings, and this is then you need to do tighter turns. At the Blue Fire, you need that 100 kilometers per hour also to reach the final brake. And therefore, if you take a look at the elements, every element is becoming a bit smaller the further the ride goes. This is coming from the friction part, because you lose the energy. To reduce the speed in the final brake, we have a magnetic brake. So we have a permanent magnet on the coaster part, so on the lower frame of the coaster vehicle, we have a permanent magnet, and we have a metal fin which sits on the coaster track, and when the train is coming and is rushing through the metal fin, then the magnetic field is introduced and the coaster vehicle is getting braked.
And Blue Fire, like all coasters, requires constant maintenance and rigorous logistics.
We have a lot of attractions, so the most complicated part is keeping track of every different aspect of that. We have the technical maintenance, we have the people working there, which are a couple hundred, and they all need to be briefed, they all need to know what they're doing. We need to make sure that they know what they're doing. I have to check the people that do the briefing, if they know what they're doing. So it's a lot of keeping the overview. That's what most guests don't notice, because they shouldn't. They only come here to have a good time, and then they leave as hopefully happy. And it's a lot of work to keep this process hidden and to keep it very safe and very good.
Maintenance operations are performed twice a day, and for the roller coasters, the day starts early. By 6 a.m., 2 mechanics are checking each wheel on the train, whatever the weather conditions.
We always wax the wheels regular, and how we do it, we spin the wheels, we take a brush and we wax the wheels. They check the trains, they check the bolts, and then we have another team that checks the steel work of the structure. And then we have another team from operations. They will clean, they will make sure everything is tidy, they will make sure everything is operational, they will do the daily tests, and then we can start the operation of the attraction.
To get the most out of a roller coaster, you have to feel safe. Here, as in many other parks, the system used is called lap bars, or individual safety bars. They adapt to each rider's morphology.
It's crucial for this part that the operator goes and checks that the lap bar is really close to the body. There should be no air between, for example, the leg and the lap bar. So he will push down the lap bar and he will pull it to see if it's locked. It always locks, and the lap bar is designed in a way that you have a lot of freedom. You don't have any shoulders restraints. You have Your whole upper body is free of movement, so you can really feel the sensations and still be safe.
But how to enrich the emotions and create new sensations? How do you stay attractive and not look old-fashioned to young people? The answer is being explored by Mac Next, a company created in 2019 by Roland's eldest son. Because in the Mac family, everyone is involved.
It's a family industry, really, and it all started with families. Even Disney was a family business when he started his first park in Los Angeles, and so I'm close to this idea, and I think it's a lot which gives a family to the industry, because there is a picture behind the company.
Values shared by Michael Mack, loyal to the past yet forward-looking.
I think every generation has his challenge. Being the oldest of the 8th generation, I try to look how we can change our business for tomorrow. And I think that's challenging, but a great joy to achieve when you see every day that new technology works in a business which is 240 years old.
The aim here is to imagine the world after without losing sight of the world before. But how to link the two?
Steve Jobs, who once said, I have to give the people the product which they can't imagination yet. This is difficult in digitalization because a lot of people don't understand what is in my mind. But having said so, I think the first step of virtual reality was our coastiality experience. So we put a headset on a roller coaster. We transported over millions and millions in 70 different theme parks with our technology. So I think we are actually the biggest VR use case in Europe after Meta, Oculus, and maybe the Sony VR. So we are quite proud to belong to the top 3 players in VR.
To understand the importance of this innovation, a short tour on Alpen Express is in order. Built in 1984 by Mack Rides, it was then called the Alpine Express and had a train equipped with an engine. Speed, only 45 kilometers per hour. One wonders whether the virtual reality here is a way of boosting the attractiveness of an attraction that had a fall-off in riders. With coastiality, are roller coasters enjoying a second youth?
If you look at Alpen Express was the first coaster at Europa Park, and it was really dropping numbers when 2015 we established coastiality. So I think what is very important for a theme park operator is like to keep the roller coaster, and that's my heart for roller coasters, to keep it original, because I think not everybody wants to have a VR headset. Not everybody wants to be in a virtual world, especially the elderly grown up. They should still be having the opportunity to ride the roller coaster as it is. But if you share the half of the train and give also the opportunity to young kids who are growing up with that technology, I think this is the family approach, what Europa Park is doing for many, many years, to have fun for the whole family.
Alpen Express Coastiality is the world's first virtual reality roller coaster. But how does coastiality work? In 2015, Mack Rides engineers developed a small black box that slides under the train and uses optical cameras to measure wheel velocity. A complex system when you know that roller coasters can be more or less fast according to the time of day.
So in the morning, normally roller coasters are much slower than in the evening when the temperature goes up. So then by the measurement of the turning velocity of the wheel, the black box does exactly know where the train on the lake how it is. He sends a Bluetooth signal to the VR headset, and in real time, the content is rendered to the roller coaster.
Whatever the content, the headset lets you dive into a virtual world that is perfectly synchronized with the mega coaster's route. An important parameter because the journey must remain comfortable for the public.
We have other options of how you centralize in the station, but that's more or less operational helps. Like we have a camera system placed in the train station. So once also connected with Bluetooth, the camera sees if all the heads are turned straight, because for the content you have to sit straight to not get sick. So if somebody turns to the right, he will realize the system and will put the center field here. Then there are another couple of different NFC technologies.
Here, virtual reality gives the roller coaster a double dose of thrills, and for good reason. Thanks to the accelerations and the headset images, it is possible to trick the brain. The visitor can indeed believe that he's in a loop or even an inversion, even if this is not the case in reality. With Coastiality, you can have many different experiences on a single circuit.
It's true that you can change the track layout, like just visually, that you can do things which roller coaster is not supposed to do at the moment, but still, you can't see your hands in virtual reality, you can't see your feet. So it's just a movie on a roller coaster, which obviously can trick your mind.
For example, if you sit in the train and one train sits on the other track, like in the station, I mean on the railway, and then the next train is moving slightly. You sometimes have the feeling, oh, I'm moving, but in reality only the other train is moving, because you do not really have the sense directly that you already moved when it is quite gentle, the acceleration. Of course, when you have the high acceleration in a roller coaster like Blue Fire, you get that feeling immediately.
But why isn't Coastiality installed on roller coasters like Blue Fire or Silver Star? Is there any danger in combining virtual reality with circuits that are already very powerful in themselves?
The velocity is not an issue for the system, so you can put it on any roller coaster as fast as the roller coaster it gets. The problem is more the headset, which might fall off if the roller coaster is too quick or makes too many steep.
Today, Coastiality is sold all over the world. Its equipment can be integrated into various types of rides.
It's a quite wide field of technology, but the good thing is that we're working right now on a platform to put it into the next level, to have around the world, like, let's say, the iTunes for roller coaster. So you just, or the App Store for roller coaster. So literally, my dream is one day that children at home play their most favorite computer game, and in a little configurator, they can build their own roller coaster of the future. And they just take their smartphone, come to the theme park and have a look in it and say, like, Coastiality inside, oh, this roller coaster has Coastiality, and they just come there with their favorite game and click in, and then they can ride a roller coaster in their favorite game.
Europa Park never stops trying to surprise. Maybe that's why it's been voted the best amusement park 7 years in a row. A feat that the Mack family hopes to continue.
It's not ended. The book is not closed with the development of Europa Park, because Europe is going to get bigger, and so we have a lot of stories to tell in the future.
One day, for sure, all the space will be taken, and then we have to think how to maybe change villages, or bring new ideas to the old villages. But it's always very important to not only look into the future, what's coming next, but also to look at the old things and keep it in shape, and then bring new ideas. For example, like the VR.
I hope we can develop it out of Europe, let's put it that way. I think it's very important to have a European identity also in the virtual world, and we want to stay European, and whoever want to join in Europe is more open to, and feel free to join our Europaverse.
It never stops, so if you know the Mack family, there's always invention, and we are always moving forward. So I think the next generation also will bring their ideas, and for sure it's not the 8th generation that will end this beautiful park. It's the 9th or 10th, hopefully the 11th, to bring this beautiful business to the future.
There's so many things going on. I never could have thought for that when I started. Maybe if I would have known, I wouldn't start at the park. What's coming up? Yeah, it's a lot of work to do, but it's also creative, and you can develop. That's the other side of the medal.
It is the biggest indoor park in the world. 900,000 square feet dedicated to the world of the prancing horse logo. A mythical Italian brand name synonymous with dreams. All the way to the United Arab Emirates, where Ferrari World was opened in 2010 on Yas Island, just 30 minutes from downtown Abu Dhabi.
It's a way for guests to experience a journey through the history of Ferrari, through the vision of its founder, being able to touch on different aspects while they are in the park.
Here, no effort has been spared to impress the brand's army of dedicated fans, aficionados of architecture, and thrill seekers. As evidenced by the roof structure, which seems to be detached from the landscape.
That was a selling mark. You can see it from the space.
This avant-garde building houses dozens of attractions, some of them in the Guinness Book of Records. Formula Rossa, the world's fastest roller coaster, reproduces the sensation of being in a race car, accelerating from 0 to 150 miles per hour in just 4 seconds.
Formula Rossa is the fastest roller coaster in the world. It always should be the fastest.
Formula Rossa is connected to a 20,800 horsepower hydraulic engine, which is absolutely huge. But you need at least that. It has to feel good. The acceleration needs to be kind of hard.
Another big attraction is Flying Aces. 3 world records have been set. The fastest and steepest lift and the highest vertical loop, allowing visitors to experience the thrill of flying in a biplane.
So Flying Aces has a 51-degree inclined lift with a cable pull, electrically driven winch system. It will launch the train up to 50 kilometers an hour, up an incline to give you that feeling of a takeoff.
The first run is already astonishing, but it's followed by an extremely impressive second run. 2 for the price of 1 is awesome.
Ferrari World is also entertainment for children. Motion simulators, driving courses, shops, and high-end restaurants. A center that relies on the promise of thrills rather than the number of attractions, of which there are a mere 22.
Ferrari World Abu Dhabi is an absolute unique experience that can't be found anywhere else in the world.
But why build such a project in Abu Dhabi? Why dedicate this huge park to the Italian car manufacturer? The total area is over 2 million square feet. That's the equivalent of 20 football fields. And it's not the only thing to impress. There is also the color of the roof, flaming red, and the astonishing shape, new, intriguing, and visible from several miles away. A spectacular and emblematic structure. The building resembles a 3-pointed star with claws that cling to the ground. Inspired by the classic double-curved side profile of a Ferrari GT. The aim here is to reflect the values and language of the Italian prestige brand. For the Strategic Relationships Manager, Ferrari has always been the stuff of dreams.
I feel proud every day I come to work because I really feel this brand. The vision of Ferrari World initially was to bring the Ferrari brand to a level that was understandable to everybody. Ferrari has been seen in the past like the iconic luxury elite market brand. By opening up a theme park, you are able to bring this brand, still luxury, still exclusive, to the masses without diluting the importance of this brand. So it's a way for guests and people to experience a journey through the history of Ferrari, through the vision of its founder, being able to touch on different aspects while they are in the park.
The Ferrari story began in the late 1920s. Enzo Ferrari founded Scuderia Ferrari, a racing team that quickly became a point of reference in the Formula One World Championship. For Enzo, motor racing was more important than anything. The marketing of racing cars would come later in 1947. The Ferrari 125S was the very first Ferrari in a history defined by a very high-end status.
Ferrari history starts from the vision of a man, a unique man like Enzo Ferrari, who was able to create from nothing, really, the most important and recognized car manufacturer brand in the world, both in the GT world, so production cars, and racing cars.
But how to keep the dream alive? How to attract a wider audience to a brand that is not accessible to everyone? This was the delicate challenge facing planners for a park located in the arid United Arab Emirates.
Obviously, Ferrari core business is something different, no? They do cars or they do F1. This was their idea, they wanted to do this, but it's not easy also for them, no? Because to protect the brand and the exclusivity of the brand, and at the same time making it achievable for the masses, it's a fine exercise. Sometimes it's not easy because you don't want to give away too much, but at the same time we need to attract more people. So it's always deliver the message without damaging the brand. It's not an easy exercise if you think about it seriously.
To make Ferrari's dream of expansion a reality, a strategic location was needed, even if it meant creating it from scratch. The structure is located on Yas Island, an artificial island of some 2,500 hectares built by the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. The Vice President of Operations for Farah Experiences, the company that now manages all the island's attractions, is enthusiastic about the location.
And I'm making sure that the guests have the best experience they can.
Yas Island is a huge real estate project with a focus on leisure. It boasts the circuit that every year hosts a Formula One World Championship race, as well as Yas Marina, a range of first-class hotels, a golf course, not to mention theme parks such as Yas Water World, and of course Ferrari World. It all adds up to making Yas Island a global tourist destination.
Our leaders have a vision of bringing Abu Dhabi and put Abu Dhabi on the world map. You know, the Formula One race track itself is the second most watched sport in the whole world after the football. So when you start acting like, okay, I'm gonna take the lead on the leisure industry, you need to come up with a unique building. So sitting with the visionary people, sitting with the old people creating, thinking of what do we need to put in Yas Island? The idea of came a joint venture with the Ferrari Italy and have a discussion of let's build the first and the only Ferrari World Abu Dhabi theme park.
Yas Island took 3 years to build. Quite an achievement considering there was nothing but sand here, where temperatures routinely reach 40 degrees Celsius.
If we go back to history a little bit, Yas Island was supposed to be a natural reserve island. It's a man-made, and it's a very prime location, which is kind of an hour between Dubai, an hour between Al Ain, and very close to the Abu Dhabi airport. So when we started looking at somewhere to build all these iconic attractions, there's no way we can find a better place than Yas Island itself. When I came into existence, it was only gazelles running around, 2 water pump stations, and 1 ring road only connect this island. That's all of it started in 2006. Seeing all the development, all of the Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, all the infrastructure has been put in place, and having the first Formula One race in 2009 made me think that, okay, this is where we are, this is the new future of Abu Dhabi, and now the leisure industry is going to be booming only from this place.
The idea of a park dedicated to Ferrari was born in the spirit of competitiveness, with a flair for operating on a monumental scale.
You know, the whole UAE country is actually been known as, let's build the longest, the tallest, the biggest, the unique. And if you look at the whole iconic building of Ferrari itself, that was a selling mark. You can see it from the space. Having under that one iconic roof, the first and the only fastest roller coaster, plus a ride which is all the family can enjoy, It always takes a challenge.
The building is an architectural expression of the values of the Ferrari brand. A brand that likes to surprise. The building sits 164 feet above sea level, like a skin peeling off the landscape. The roof is 160 feet high, with a total circumference of approximately 1.3 miles. Made from highly insulated steel, the structure is supported by 12 columns, forming a 12-pointed Arab star. At the very top sits the biggest Ferrari logo in the world, 213 by 159 feet, covering an area of over 32,000 square feet. The structure is marked by a large glass funnel with a diameter of 330 feet at the top and only 55 feet at the base. More than 12,000 tons of steel were used in its construction. All features that make the building such a revolutionary design.
All this steel structure, all the red roof itself, the massive logo, you have it on the top of the roof. It's impressive, it's iconic.
The structure is amazing. If you see the red from outside, it's still as red as 12 years ago. In a country where you have 362 days of sun light during the year, it's quite astonishing, the quality of this building, because red tends to fade into pink in many cases, and this one is still bright and shine as the first day. And it's important because it's the first thing guests see when they're landing in Abu Dhabi. You're just passing over this building to land in Abu Dhabi.
It's make you wonder what exactly under that roof. It's attract everyone in the whole around the world just to come and see what exactly under this roof.
What was needed was a loop. Welcome to the world's greatest amusement park, created around all things Ferrari, a name synonymous with style and a byword for excellence, which is why it was so important to give it a roller coaster that would create the right impression. And the most iconic is Formula Rossa, a wild ride that offers the sensation of being in a racing car, hitting a speed close to 150 miles an hour in just 4 seconds. A record breaker, the fastest ride anywhere in the world. And while it's something to be extremely proud of, the park is also eager to point out the wide range of activities on offer in this unique setting. There are motion simulators, driving courses, shops, but also a free-fall tower and a scenic trip through the history of Ferrari.
At the beginning was an experiment, let's say, no? So nobody really knew exactly what they wanted to do. Does it have to be a theme park like Disney World? Does it have to be a showroom? Does it have to be a mix of both? So the offering for the guest was still of high quality, but very limited in terms of number of things that someone could have done here. There wasn't enough for, to be really called theme park for families, adults, kids, women, for everybody. Now we are there, or we are getting there more and more. We have, I think, doubled the rides compared to before, from 22 to 43 currently rides and attractions. We have shows, we have seasonal events, which is super important for a theme park. So I think we are now offering what people expect from a theme park, but the idea is to be the Ferrari of the theme parks, meaning always a little bit better than others.
Now, everyone thinks Ferrari World Abu Dhabi is always about cars. No, it's not. It's always about what exactly you can give the people. Now, thinking of going back to history of Italy, the logo of its Ferrari itself, the first one, it was in one of their airplanes.
Flying Aces is showing the history of the Ferrari logo. So why and how Ferrari cars have a prancing horse on a yellow background on their bonnets. The horse was the emblem of a very famous Italian aviator during the early 19th century. His mother was a friend of Enzo Ferrari. So when this aviator died during his duties, he was a World War I pilot, the mother of this pilot donated to Enzo Ferrari the Cavallino, the Rampante, the prancing horse, and said, you can use this on your cars if you want from now on, it's gonna bring you luck. So she donated this. And since then, Enzo Ferrari took this prancing horse and put it on his cars. Why the yellow background? That one is the color of Modena, which is the city from where Enzo Ferrari was born. So this is how it started. And we have the Flying Aces attraction where it's all themed around the history. So even the queue line, you are inside an hangar with planes, etc. It's very nice.
Now, Flying Aces is it's a biplane design ride. I've never been done before. Since it came to existence, we break 3 major records with the Guinness records. It's give a feeling of less than 0 G-force, and it goes so fast, and it's the highest point in the Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, which is about 63-meter height.
While for visitors, Ferrari World means adrenaline and fun. For the technical teams, it is an exercise in flawless organization.
It's a very unique environment for an engineer or anyone that's in maintenance. Our product is guests' enjoyment, guests' fun, and I do that with a huge team of technicians ranging from electrical and mechanical engineers. Flying Aces is based on a biplane aircraft design. So the ride is designed to give you the feeling of a high-speed takeoff, and then traveling around the ride with the steep turns and banks that you get from an aircraft to make you feel like you're flying.
To achieve the sensation of flying in a biplane, engineers had to develop a very sophisticated cable system, one that thrill seekers are obviously blissfully unaware of while riding the roller coaster.
The principles behind a roller coaster, any roller coaster, but in particular on this one, are basic engineering principles. We take those principles and look at how we can make it more thrilling. It's very difficult to give you the feelings of flying in an aircraft, both to get the speed and the design into the ride. You don't want it too fast that people then aren't enjoying the ride, but you want it fast enough to make it thrilling and exciting, so it's difficult.
It is something Benjamin Ribocourt knows plenty about. An engineer by trade and an expert in roller coasters, he has a keen understanding of what lies behind Flying Aces.
I've been to many parks in my life, around 150 so far, and I've been on over 700 roller coasters. Of course, as an engineer and an enthusiast, I don't just check out the air conditioning. I like to look a lot at what's going on, the machinery, how these things operate. It's fascinating to see all the technology that goes into offering visitors an experience that lasts maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Flying Aces is a conventional roller coaster in the sense that it doesn't use a propulsion mechanism. It begins with what's called a lift, the first climb you see in the majority of roller coasters, with the train pulled to a high point to give it potential energy, which can then be transformed into kinetic energy, that's to say, into speed. This first lift has to be high enough to generate enough speed to get through all the loops that follow. How do you do that? Manufacturers offer several solutions according to the park's needs. In this case, Intamin and Ferrari World chose what is called a cable lift, meaning you use a bi-directional motor at the top of the lift with a cable. When the train is in the station, a hooking system pulls the train all the way up the top before releasing it. Then, by gravity, because it has no engine, the train has to be able to make all the following rises and descents, which the design engineers need to make sure are a little more basic, so that the train can maintain a certain speed, and of course finish the course, given the strong headwind and the friction of the wheels against the rail. The goal is to ensure the train makes it through every element at a set speed, one that produces a sensation. For example, going over a hump, the aim is to take it at good speed to ensure the sensation of being lifted. Of course, all this is designed beforehand by engineers using computer models. Everything is worked out in advance because the roller coaster is tested for the first time. If everything goes well, there are no surprises with regard to the sensations experienced.
It's hard to remain calm when experiencing extreme sensations. The aim here is to thrill or to terrify, depending on the visitor, since each person reacts differently.
Flying Aces produces what are known as air times, that lovely moment when your buttocks lift off the seat and you feel very light. It's a sensation most sought after by amusement park enthusiasts. And it's a feature of Flying Aces. When there's a hump, the train takes it at a high enough speed to make you feel lifted. So when you look at the various figures on Flying Aces, it's the sensation the designers and the park were obviously looking for, something resembling the acrobatic figures achieved in a plane, which is great, given that it's the exact theme of the ride.
What makes Flying Aces so special is also its loop, with some additional very special effects.
The most iconic part of the ride is the non-inverted loop at the top of the ride. A non-inverted loop is when you go on a standard loop of a roller coaster, but as you reach the apex of that loop, you're no longer inverted. You're actually in the correct plane of sight.
Instead of coming in upside down, your head is pointing upwards. You have this phenomenon of going up into the loop, which I think is the highest in the world of this type, while going through a twist such that your head is the right way up, not pointing down. It's impressive because you reach a very high point. Then the dive afterwards launches you into a descent of more than 150 feet, but without having your head upside down. The other particularity of Flying Aces is that its trains have wings. So you have two passengers in the classic position, with two other passengers alongside who are literally outside the rail. In those seats, when you look down, there's no track. You really feel like you're flying. Again, that's good because airplanes are the theme of the ride. Also, by using this shape, the park was able to play on the fact that they are a little like wings.
Flying Aces is a mixture of technology and aesthetics. Seen from afar, the ride looks like a heart.
It's called a parade element. Theme parks often ask the constructor to produce a very visible, high-profile feature that almost advertises the park on its own, so that when you arrive on this panoramic platform, you can't miss it. You have this huge heart with a train flying through it, which makes for some really nice photos and videos. So it's a real bonus to have that kind of feature.
None of this could exist without guaranteed security. Here, as in any other amusement park, all the risks are carefully calculated. Every piece of machinery undergoes regular checks. Any failure or error is out of the question.
Flying Aces will be maintained twice a day, every day. The general safety checks or planned maintenance that we do that before operation. And then in the evenings, after operation, we do the maintenance checks, which would be the lubrication, cleaning and presentation ready for the next day's operation. Coupled with that, we have weekly, monthly, quarterly and annual checks as well. So Flying Aces, multitude of mechanical and electrical items, but the automation, which is the computer side, is very complex. We have to have what's known as a safety PLC, and that will be double monitoring at least on every component. So it will monitor the speed, it will monitor the lap bars, it will monitor the position of the vehicles. So for example, the lap bars, they're locked down on hydraulic locks, but they are independent of each other, but they're both doing the same job. So if either one was to fail, the system would still operate and still keep the customer safe. When that train would return to the station, we'll get a signal back to the controls that will say, there's a problem with your lap bar, you need to investigate, and it would no longer allow you to operate the ride. So no, the rides are not dangerous.
Another important consideration is the climate. Ferrari World is located in an area that is often subject to extreme weather conditions, and the heat has to be managed with a high-performance air conditioning system. Another factor is the wind.
The wind is monitored and calculated throughout the operation of the ride. So both the wind direction and the wind speed will actually limit us on when we can and can't run. So when we have a windy day, if it's in the right direction at the right speed, we would not operate the ride because there's a possibility of it stalling on the track. So it's like if you're driving your car on a highway and it's very windy, you can actually feel the resistance on the car was slowing you down, and you will compensate with your accelerator. But the rides are gravity fed, so that wind could actually potentially slow down the vehicle enough that it would stop on the ride. So we will monitor that and ensure that we don't operate in those wind conditions.
Formula Rossa is Ferrari World's star attraction, a roller coaster course about 1.5 miles long, inspired by the Monza circuit in Italy, with sharp turns and chicanes to break the long straights. The ride lasts 1 minute and 32 seconds. All this in what looks like a Formula One car from the Ferrari team. There are 16 passengers per circuit, all equipped with protective glasses of the type worn by parachutists. A necessary precaution in view of the high speeds involved and the risk of impact with airborne particles or insects. Not to mention the sand and the wind. Formula Rossa offers thrill seekers a unique experience. In addition to speed and acceleration, the thermal shock also needs to be taken into account. Most of the circuit is outdoors, but the start and finish are in an indoor, air-conditioned area.
As an enthusiast and an engineer visiting Ferrari World, what's especially interesting is Formula Rossa, a roller coaster that goes up to 150 miles per hour.
The Formula Rossa ride is the best ride I can ever imagine. It's give you the Formula One driving experience.
The story is replicating the launch of a Grand Prix. So you are sitting on an F1 car, starting a Grand Prix, so that, hence the launch, why it's so intense.
It's reached 240 in less than 4 seconds.
The previous record was 127 miles per hour with the King Dakar roller coaster in the United States. So we're way beyond that here. But being in the middle of the desert, the environment changes the experience a lot.
It makes you speechless. So when you launch the rides, it's always the first 4 seconds you cannot even, I feel like on my experience, I cannot even breathe, I cannot scream.
The physical ordeal experienced on Formula Rossa raises questions as to whether or not it is actually dangerous for the body.
The human body is capable of extreme speeds, as it doesn't actually feel speed, only acceleration. In an aircraft, you're traveling at over 1,000 miles an hour but don't feel anything. You only feel something during takeoff and landing. The human body feels acceleration, not speed. In theory, you can say the same thing about Formula Rossa. Imagine yourself at 150 miles per hour, which is roughly twice the speed of a car driving along the freeway. Here you have no windshield, so the wind at 150 miles per hour is incredible. This ride is a total success because as well as the drawn-out and impressive propulsion, you also have this whole ride at ground level, which is a first for the constructor, Intamin. In previous records, you just had a sensation of acceleration, quickly followed by deceleration, kind of a one-shot roller coaster that lasts about 10 seconds. But with Formula Rossa, they had the excellent idea of making it 1.5 miles long, which is much longer than the average ride. You also go through it very quickly. So while it cost a lot of money, behind it was the great idea of not frustrating the passenger. I did it in the very front row, which is a must for roller coaster enthusiasts like me on Formula Rossa. There's a before and an after. These are extreme speeds and sensations.
But how does Formula Rossa work? The figure-8 track begins with a straight launch area, propelling the train up to its top speed, ending at the highest section, 160 feet or so above the ground. After slowing at the top, it continues its course along big, wide turns thanks to the power of the initial thrust. The hydraulic launch system generates a release of speed similar to that of steam catapults on an aircraft carrier.
The idea behind the Formula Rossa project was clearly to have the highest speed possible and the world record. You can imagine the conversations around whether or not to incorporate a gravity climb, as with flying aces, or a propulsion system. It obviously had to be propulsion. I can't begin to imagine the height the train would have to climb to generate a speed of 150 miles per hour. So that would be very expensive. The propulsion idea generates direct kinetic energy without having to go via potential energy, where you'd hook your train up to a cable, as with flying aces. The cable then has to pull a train weighing several tons, which requires a great deal of power. The cable is connected to a 20,800 horsepower hydraulic engine, which is absolutely huge. But you need at least that much. The trains are very heavy, and there still has to be some sensation. The acceleration has to be kind of hard to satisfy thrill seekers. The hydraulic engine consists of a drum where the cable can be wound or unwound. So far, it's very simple. How it works is, the powerful motor will start to wind the cable around this very tall drum. Hooked up to the other end of the cable is the train. So when the drum starts to turn, the train follows the movement. At the end of the propulsion zone, the train is released from the cable. The motor stops and winds the cable back around the drum. Then we go back to the initial position for the next train. Obviously, the choice of propulsion is also linked to the theme, which in this case is Formula One. So here, when it propels you to 150 miles per hour in 4 seconds, you experience a G-force of 1.7. 1.7 Gs means that you feel 1.7 times your weight in the seat during propulsion. What's special about Formula Rossa is that this acceleration lasts only 4 seconds, but it feels much longer. On most other roller coasters, you feel the sudden acceleration and you're away, the train is gone. You reach your maximum speed. But to get to 150 miles per hour, you experience this very powerful acceleration during the 4-second propulsion, which is actually pretty long. The sensation is unbelievable. The acceleration seems to be never-ending.
Clearly, with such high speeds, the problem of braking arises. How can a slowdown be achieved? How may we be sure that the train will stop in the right place at the right time, producing the braking power of a racing car?
At the end of the ride, you have to think about braking, preferably before you reach the station. To slow down a train weighing several tons, Intamin fitted a magnetic braking system, meaning it's contactless. Metal blades beneath the train run beneath 2 magnet pads. The resulting eddy currents produce a magnetic field and create a force acting against the movement of the train. This obviously slows the train down. The advantage is that the system is fail-safe. The magnetic field is always there, whatever happens, even in the event of a power failure. So the train will always be slowed down. It's 100% reliable.
To ensure safety, engineers need to have all the bases covered. It isn't just the brakes that need to be adjusted. The complete environment has to be taken into account, along with a whole series of parameters that could potentially damage the devices.
The biggest challenge we have on Formula Rossa is not just the outside air temperature, but also the acceleration is so rapid and so quick. The wheels generate heat within them very quickly. So we use a water-cooled system to keep the wheels cool. So every time you see the train come inside the station, you'll see the water jets spraying off cooled water to keep those wheels nice and cool. Obviously, water, in return, is something that causes corrosion to steel. So we have to treat the water with anti-corrosion and antibacterial to keep the bacteria which causes the corrosion on the track away. So we have this constant dance of having to need water to keep the train cool, but also having to keep the water controlled so we don't cause damage to the track.
The park is divided into 4 thematic zones. First is Adventure, featuring TurboTrack, the attraction with a vertical climb followed by a jaw-dropping fall. Next come the Italy Zone and the Family Zone, not forgetting the Formula One Zone, where thrill seekers can experience the excitement of a roller coaster ride, as well as the thrill of driving a real Ferrari. A rare thrill, and with good reason.
We are the only official place in the world where we offer driving experiences on a Ferrari, which is approved by Ferrari. Because many places you can rent a Ferrari from everywhere basically, but you're gonna just rent it and go. Here we have the official trained instructors from Italy. They are going to present you the car, show you the briefing, and then come with you on the car, with the car, outside on your drive. So it's very much official, and you really get the sense of Ferrari. Rather than driving in it, etc., and that's it, you have someone telling you everything about your car in a professional way, in a professional manner. You can be a passenger or you can be a driver, depending on what you want to do, basically.
For visitors with driving aspirations, or at least those who wish to test their abilities, simulators are available. It's an amazing experience and a very popular one.
We have regular and advanced simulators. The regular ones are available to anybody in the park. The two advanced ones, one F1 and one GT race car, that replicates really what a driver has to do before entering a race. In other words, now everybody in F1 or racing are using simulators to test the car and fine-tune the chassis and everything they need to do on the suspensions to be able to reach the race day with the car mostly set up for perfection for that specific track and day. Simulators is what we're doing here as well. So we have this kind of super advanced simulators where you can experience the closest possible to be a racer on an F1 car or a GT car.
In addition to the virtual, there is the thrill of experiencing sensations that are even more real. TurboTrack is a futuristic-looking, brightly lit roller coaster that puts on a show for the audience below. For the passengers, the experience is particularly intense. It shows them whether they have what it takes to be part of the Ferrari team.
TurboTrack is the testing facility for the soon-to-be or wanted-to-be F1 drivers. We need to see if you have what it takes to become an F1 driver. So you have skills, you have reaction time, stuff to do in the queue line, and then your ultimate test is to be on the coaster and come out of the coaster happy and healthy and not like wobbly. Otherwise, you don't have what it takes.
TurboTrack is iconic and it's unique because you can ride it in two different ways, either facing front or you go backward. And the beauty about this ride is actually goes so fast in launch and then it goes inside the funnel, which is the middle of the Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, take you to the highest point on the whole island, which is about 63 meters high. And it goes back inside with a feeling that you are breaking the record of the G-force.
But how does it work? What are the mechanical principles behind the ride?
Like Formula Rossa, TurboTrack is a powered roller coaster. But here the propulsion system is different. It uses electromagnetic propulsion, meaning you have a series of electromagnets around the propulsion zone and a magnet beneath the train. As you know, magnets can attract or repel each other. In the case of an electromagnet, you can set the polarity to positive or negative, depending on the current you run through it. The idea is the train has a magnet on it. To attract it, you need negative polarity on the train and positive on the magnet ahead, with negative behind. That way, the train is both pushed from behind and drawn forward. By controlling it with a computer system, the train is pulled ahead faster and faster. That gives you an electromagnetically powered train.
TurboTrack was opened in 2017. To remain attractive, you have to keep moving. Future developments are driven by customer feedback, with visitors invited to provide comments and criticism.
We always listen to the people saying, guys, you have one iconic building. Why don't we cannot walk on that building? Why cannot we take a picture on top of it? As I mentioned, we listen to our guests, we listen to our people. Introducing a walk on the roof of the most iconic building, the landmark of Abu Dhabi, I would say, is elevated our experience to our guests. Since 2019, we have been really seeing a number of guests just coming from around the world just to walk on the roof and making sure that it's in their to-do list and to take it. I have to do it. I have to take a picture on the biggest logo of Ferrari are existing in the whole world.
To avoid limiting its appeal to speed junkies, the park with the prancing horse logo has something for all the family. In Ferrari World, children of all ages and sizes are catered for. The park also offers a range of quieter activities in a year-round ambient temperature of 24 degrees Celsius within a largely covered space.
We're always ensuring that we can deliver the best customer experience, and how we do that is to reach all of our family-friendly moments in the park. So in line with our 10th anniversary, we introduced our brand new family zone, which was an attraction consisting of 4 miniature versions of our record-breaking rides.
It has a Formula Rossa Junior, which is for our new young champions. They can enjoy that ride. It's a quite fast. They have a biplane also, which is mimicking what exactly have on our flying aces.
We have Speedway Race, which is a small Formula One racing ride. And we have the Turbo Tower, which brings in the turbo track element to the rides. It's great to include younger guests. We've always been known as a thrill park, but now we also have that family element too.
And that kids zone, since it's been opened, it's been really doing well. It comes to our top favorites, attractions and zone.
Today, the theme park's major challenge is to remain competitive and in line with the Ferrari brand. The aim is to remain the benchmark in theme parks.
We are the only Ferrari World so far in the world. There is another smaller park called Ferrari Land. Why land? Because it's a land within an existing park in Spain, Barcelona, Portaventura. They have a land called Ferrari Land. We are the first one and so far the only Ferrari World in the world.
The art of talking without revealing anything. For the time being, the plans are top secret, leaving thrill seekers to dream about the ever more intense sensations soon to be on offer.
I have a great team to work with. You know, the whole team on Yas Island and all these Ferrari World Abu Dhabi are always checking on what exactly on the market. We go to new events. We participate on all these exhibitions around the world to make sure that whoever manufacturer come up with a new, and say sometimes it's an iconic and unique and maybe never been built, we try to be the first. We grab it. We make sure that wherever you want to see this ride, it's not going to be around the world. It's always in Abu Dhabi, it's always in Yas Island, and you're going to find it in Ferrari World Abu Dhabi.
And because Ferrari World is faithful to the brand that inspired it, the park promises to keep striving to offer more thrills, more speed, more world records, and more fun. To drive audiences wild and leave them wanting more.
Why do I think people love Ferrari World Abu Dhabi? Well, who doesn't love Ferrari brand itself? It's one of the leading brands in the world, and one of our main campaigns and our goals is for people to find that Ferrari feeling. And I think that once you do, it never leaves you. So when you enter our beautiful park and you see our world record-breaking rides, our wonderful galleria and display of the machines that Ferraris are and the innovation that belongs to that, you know, that feeling will never leave you. I promise you. I promise you it will never go away.